Alright friends, today you're going to need some paper. I used watercolor paper. You're going to need a pencil, stencil, black oil pastel, and chalk pastel. The first thing you're going to do is grab your handy dandy pencil and trace around your stencil. You might want to put your finger right up next to the edge to create a clear, crisp line. Remove the stencil and you can look at that for ideas on what to draw inside of the well. I'm going to draw a little dot in the center and start on the left side and make a parallel line just like the top of the fin all the way across, making sure to connect to that dot. Then I'm going to add some curved lines as I see on the tracer to create some space and some little dots on the fin. And then I'm going to draw a curved line and a straight line down and another straight line down. That creates space as well, which is one of the elements of art. You could add some curvy lines, like wavy lines. I decided I want to copy off the stencil and add some spiral type lines. And I'm just trying my very best. It doesn't have to look like what's on the stencil. You make your own. But one thing I will say is try to not make too many lines, because we are going to be tracing over all of these lines with black oil pastel. And black oil pastel is going to create a thicker line than our pencil line that we're using now. So we have to leave enough space for that thick black line. I'm just going to keep adding my swirls. You can always practice making swirls and waves on a scrap piece of paper before you actually do it on your project paper, or just remember to draw light before you get it right. I showed you the black glue because you could use that instead of using the black oil pastel. I prefer the black oil pastel. It's less messy and it gets the job done quick without having to let the black glue dry, still creating almost the same product. So I'm going to keep adding my black lines and I will catch up with you after. And remember, you can always pause the video or rewind or fast forward to wherever you are. Alright, I'm erasing any pencil lines that I see, making sure to stay away from the oil pastel because it will smear. I'm going to grab my yellow chalk pastel and draw a circle, kind of a big one, right behind the well fin. Trying my very best. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle. You could always grab something that's in a circle shape, put it over and trace around it, or just freehand it. I'm going to color in. This part doesn't have to be perfect because we are using chalk pastel and we will rub the pigment around to cover up any of the little white spaces. I'm using the color wheel, and after yellow we have orange if we're going in order. So I'm going to make sure I put my orange down, and knowing that once I rub my chalk pastels, the yellow and the orange will blend together, making a yellow-orange. My next color is red, so I'm going to grab that red and follow that circle line. This time we can see it on the other side of the fin, so I'm going to make sure I draw that, pretending like it goes behind the fin, even adding a little orange over there. Yours might not line up like that, and that's okay. I'm going to add some pink because pink is really red, just mixed with a little white. And I want to create some brighter colors, so I'm going to use some purple next because after red comes purple. And I said, you know what, I want to brighten this purple up, so I'm going to add a little bit of white on top of that. And maybe even on my blue, I don't know. Let's add some blue. And let's wipe off our fingers with a wet rag and then a dry rag before we go and blend our colors together. I'm going to grab just one finger and do itty bitty circles. I'm going to start in the yellow, making sure my hand is not rubbing on all the other colors, so I'm keeping it up. And then I'm going to go and blend. So I'm mixing in that orange, I'm dragging it into the yellow. I can still use my finger because those colors mix well together. That's another good thing about using the same colors that are in order on the color wheel, because they will make a good mix. I'm going to go drag some of that red inside of the orange, creating like a red-orange. And I'm wiping off my finger, then drying it off. I got to remember to dry it off. And I'm going in this pink After I do the pink, I will do the purple and blend it in with that pink. Always wiping my fingers off if I feel like the colors might not mix well as I think. Notice I'm constantly wiping off my fingers with the wet rag, and then the dry rag. And I'm going back and I'm doing itty bitty circles to mix the colors. And don't rush this part. This is an important part. You don't want to just grab a whole bunch of your hand and rub everything. It's not going to work out. All the colors will mix and make a brown or a muddy gray. I decided I want to go with my white and add some lines, making sure that they were in the same direction as all the circles. So I'm just adding some little lines. And now it's time for the water. I grabbed a white oil pastel and added some white spots. I know you can't see them, but you'll be able to see them on your paper just a little bit. And I'm going to grab a couple colors for the water, and I want to use some cool colors. So like blues, greens, and white, which is a neutral. But I don't want to use purple down here. I don't think it will look good. And notice how the way I'm making my marks is kind of in the direction of the swirls. I even thought, oh, I could use a little yellow because blue and yellow make green. I want to keep this primarily blue, but I'm going to use some of that white to kind of blend in some of those colors. So now I've got the white pastel. I'm going to wipe off my fingers, the wet and the dry, and then I'm going to go and blend. Notice the way I'm blending, I'm going in the direction of the waves and leaving some white space because that will be more realistic on how the water looks. There is a little bit of white whenever you see a wave, and I'm just going to keep rubbing until everything looks good. You might need to go back and forth with rubbing and also with chalk pastels until you get the look that you're going for. Okay, now that I've wiped my fingers off, I'm going to lay some white down in the top of that fin so that I can create a light blue, just to match the bottom, kind of balance out the picture or the drawing. Add just a little bit of blue and then grab my, oh yeah, I've got to do it right here too. So I laid the white down, laid a little bit of blue, wipe off my fingers, and then I'm going to go and make itty bitty circles inside of there to smooth that color out. And I think that's going to create some balance in the picture, bringing that blue from the water up to the middle of the paper. And I'm even adding a slight blue line right under it, barely pressing with that chalk pastel and then smoothing that out. That's optional. All of this is optional. You can make this like you want to. Then I'm going to grab my black pastel and go and add any more dots that I might want to add and draw those two lines all the way down to the waves. I'm also going to go back over and trace over all the lines I did, trying to keep my hand off of the paper. And there we go. I hope you had fun with this project. You can go back with a dry napkin and clean up any lines, and we're all done.